Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is able to hear me. Okay, now let's start with the topic. Welcome to Tax Buddy webinar series. I am CA Divya Bhanushali, your speaker for the today's topic, which is new versus old tax regime. What should I do? Why this topic is so important? As the recent budget has introduced this option to choose between the old and new tax regime, which is applicable from the financial year 2021 to 2020 to 2021, that is from 1st April 2020. We have reorganized this session once again after getting so many public requests to conduct this webinar again. Before starting with the session, thank you for attending this webinar. I would complete this presentation by 30 to 35 minutes. I will also discuss some of the FAQs which were being asked in my previous webinar. After that, if anyone has any question, then please take a note of the same and raise your hands, or else you can also type in the Q&A tab. I shall address those at the end of the session. Now let's start with the topic, which is new versus old tax regime. What should I do? Our main goal is, after completion of this webinar, you should be able to decide between the old and new tax regime. For this, we need to go through the following process. First, a quick brief discussion of what is old tax regime and what is new tax regime. Second, how to decide. Here we have elaborated with the steps to decide which option will be better for you. Next, but remember, there are few important points that you need to take into account. We shall also give you the link for the Hazel-free tool to decide which option will be better for you by just answering the few questions. And the final session would be question and answer. Starting with the brief discussion, what is old tax regime? If your income is, if your taxable income is up to 5 lakh, then you're not supposed to pay any tax liability because you're eligible to claim rebate. If your income exceeds 5 lakh, then the below tax slab rate shall apply. The slab rates in old tax regime is bifurcated into three group of people. First, age less than 60 years. Second, 60 years or more but less than 80 years. Third, 80 years or more. The difference between these three categories is basic exemption limit. For the first category is 2.5 lakh, for the second is 3 lakh, and for the third is 5 lakh. If your income ranges between 2.5 to 5 in the first category, then 5% tax rate shall apply. For the second, 3 to 5, then 5%. If your income ranges between 5 lakh to 10 lakh, then 20% tax rate shall apply. If your income is greater than 10 lakh, then 30% on such greater income shall apply. Last time I got many questions with regards to senior citizen calculations. I would like to discuss the same in my next slide. Now let us know what is new tax regime. As rebate is same in both the tax regime. That means if my income is up to rupees 5 lakh, then I'm not supposed to pay any tax. And if my income exceeds 5 lakh, then the below tax slab rate shall apply. Here, the slab rates is been common for all the age group, whether it be more than 60 years or more than 80 years. That means my basic exemption limit is common for all. That is 2.5 lakh. Now let's compare this with the old tax rates. Here, as you can see, the income from 5 lakh to 15 lakh, the slab rates have been changed and income brackets have also been changed. Slab rate here in the new regime is been reduced, where income ranges between 5 lakh to 10 lakh, the old tax rates was 20% was applicable, wherein in the new it's 10% and 15%. Where income exceeds 10 lakh, 30% was applicable, but in the new 20, 25 and 30%. Now let's discuss about the senior citizen and super senior citizen, people age 60 years or more and 80 years or more. I would recommend you should go for old regime because the basic exemption limit is higher in the old regime. As we can see, 3 lakh for the senior citizen and 5 lakh for the super senior citizen. Along with that, you are also eligible to get two extra deductions. First, interest income, instead of rupees 10,000, you get an extra deductions of 50,000 and medical expenditure of 50,000. But still, you need to calculate the tax liability in the old and new and then only compare which is beneficial for you. Now, coming to the next step, how to decide. Here we have elaborated with the steps. Step 1, what are the unavoidable tax saving expenditures you have? These are those expenditures which you have incurred not with an intention to save your taxes. These are home loan interest, principal, rent, children tuition fees, etc. Step 2, what are the unstoppable investments you have? These are those investments which you have already committed for, as you need to invest some amount of your income regularly to keep this account active. Examples: PF, Sukanya Samriddhi scheme, life insurance, medical insurance, etc. Now let's understand this with an example. Assume I have an income of rupees 8 lakh. I am salaried person, so eligible to claim standard deduction of rupees 50,000. Paying rent for my accommodation will be eligible to claim HRA exemption. Paying tuition fees. Now coming up to the unstoppable investments. PF, life insurance, medical insurance, etc. Here you can see my tax liability in the old regime is 15,000 approx and in the new regime is 46,000 approx. So the person in this case should go for old regime. Why now you must be wondering why there is no exemption and deduction available in the new regime. Let's discuss this in the next slide. What are not available? Exemption and deduction not available in the new tax regime. I have bifurcated this in the 4 categories. First, for the salaried person, for the person having salary income, standard deductions, entertainment allowances, which is applicable to the government employees, professional tax, house rent allowances, leave travel allowances, and many more. Examples of many more would be children education allowance, hostel allowance, transport allowance, conveyance, etc. For the second category, for the person having income from house property, interest on home loan for self-occupied and vacant property. If at all I'm paying EMIs for these property, then the interest amount is not allowed to claim as an exemption. Wherein, if interest and EMIs are paid for the let out property or a rented property, the interest amount is eligible to claim. But set off of such losses against the other sources of income is not possible. I would like to discuss this few of the question in the next slide. So we'll discuss them later. Third, for the person having other sources income, family pension, minor income child clubbing. When your minor child's income is clubbed with your income, then you are eligible to claim approx of 1,500 per child exemption amount. But if you're going for the new tax regime, then such exemption is not allowed. Only the income is clubbed. Coming up to the fourth category, which is for all, which is basically the deduction under Chapter 6A, which includes from Section 80C to 80U. All these deductions are not allowed. Examples: life insurance, PF, post office time deposits, ELSS, pension fund, Mediclaim, Sukanya Samriddhi scheme, expenditures like tuition fees, donations, rent paid, interest or principal on home loan, interest on education loan, Income based deductions like saving bank interest and interest from all deposits for senior citizen people. All these exemptions and deductions are not available in the new tax regime. Now you must be thinking, then what exactly is available? Let's check out what exactly is deducted in new tax regime. No deduction of chapter 6 is allowed except for two. First, employer's contribution towards pension fund. If your employer is contributing towards the pension fund for that that contribution is eligible to claim as a deduction in the new tax regime too. Second, deduction in respect of employment of the new employees. This is applicable for the business and manufacturing sector. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर मैंने मेरे प्रीवियस ईयर में कुछ एम्प्लॉयज या तो वर्कर्स को अपॉइंट किया है एंड उनको जो मैं सैलरी और वेजेस पे कर रही हूँ, तो उसका मेरे को एक्सपेंडिचर में तो डिडक्शन मिलेगा ही, बट अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट मेरे को कुछ प्रपोर्शन एक डिडक्शन में भी मिलता था, डिडक्शन अंडर चैप्टर 6 से एक सेक्शन 80 JJA, उसमें भी मेरे को वो एलिजिबल है. बट सिंस अगर मैं न्यू रेजिम में जा रही हूँ तो मुझे ये दो सेक्शंस अभी भी मिलेंगे. डिडक्शन ऑफ इंटरेस्ट पेड ऑन होम लोन फॉर अगेंस्ट द लेट आउट प्रॉपर्टी. एज अर्लियर आई सेड दैट के इंटरेस्ट जो आप पे कर रहे हो लेट आउट प्रॉपर्टी, जो रेंटेड प्रॉपर्टी है उसके लिए, उसका इंटरेस्ट आपको क्लेम करने मिलेगा, बट आप जो लॉसेस क्लेम करोगे वो नहीं मिलेगा. लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड विद एन एग्जांपल. अगर मेरे पास दो हाउस प्रॉपर्टी है, एक से मुझे लॉस हुआ, दूसरे से मुझे प्रॉफिट हुआ, तो इसका लॉस इसके सामने मैं सेट ऑफ कर पाऊंगी. बट अगर मुझे एक हाउस प्रॉपर्टी से लॉस हुआ एंड मुझे सामने सैलरी इनकम है, तो ये सेट ऑफ मैं नहीं कर पाऊंगी. सेट ऑफ लॉसेस against the let out property is not possible against any other sources of income. Next, whether contribution in NPS is eligible in the new tax regime. After considering the first question, you must be thinking that eligible NPS में जो भी investments करेंगे वो eligible होगा. नहीं, आपने जो भी contribution किया है वो eligible नहीं होगा, but employer ने किया है वो eligible होगा. Now coming with the next example, we will go through all the steps of unavoidable calculating the unavoidable tax saving expenditures, unstoppable investments. Here, assume I have an income of rupees 18 lakh. I am paying EMIs for my home loan, interest, principal amount, coming up with the unstoppable investment Sukanya Samriddhi, as I have committed for this account and I need to pay a minimum amount to keep this account as active. Life insurance, medical insurance, etc. As you can see, my tax liability in the old regime is 3 lakh approx and in the new regime is 2.88 lakhs. Therefore, the person in this case should go for new regime. Why is it so? As we can see, the income here was greater and the deduction which I claim in the old tax regime is lower. So, higher the income with the less deductions, new regime would be better. But remember, following are the few important points that you need to take into account. After completing these steps, if your answer is old, then check for the opportunities to save more by investing more. For this, you can download our app taxbuddy.com, in which you can use the tax planning features, where you will get the list of opportunities based on your current investments to save more taxes. If your answer is new, then do not invest in any tax saving options. I will go through the few questions which were asked in my previous webinar before going for the second point. I'll explain in that next in my next slide. Second point, do not compare. Do not compare based on my income. If in my previous example, which I took of 8 lakh rupees, I would have compared that between based on my income only 8 lakhs, then my tax liability in the old regime is 75,000 approx, and in the new regime it's 46,000 approx. Here we can see that the new tax liability in the new regime is lower than the old regime, but which is incorrect. As we gone through the steps of calculating unavoidable expenditure and unstoppable investments, we came to know that old regime was better. So please don't compare based on the income. Compare only after considering and calculating your all these steps. Next, inform your selections to your employer so that he deduct the TDS accordingly. If you fail to inform, then he shall deduct based on the old tax regime. For this, I would recommend that you should go for old tax regime only. Why? I'll explain in the next point. Selected tax regime option can be changed. For the TDS purpose, no. You cannot change your selections for the entire 12 month. Yes, you can change at the time of filing your income tax return. But you cannot claim salary related deductions. As I mentioned in the previous point, that you need to claim old regime at the time of declaration to the employer. Because if you are claiming new regime and saying to your employer that I wanted to go for the new regime, employer आपके कोई भी salary related deductions नहीं claim करेगा. Accordingly आपको वो सारे exemptions, salary related deductions, आप अगर आप old में भी जा रहे हो income tax filing के time, but still claim करने नहीं मिलेगा. So it would be better you declare your selection old regime to the employer. Next, if selected new regime in the financial year 2021 and can change in the financial year 21 to 22, yes, you can do so. Selecting any regime which is beneficial for you can be adopted. This choice can be exercised every year. But there is an exception for the person having business and professions from all the nature of business and professions. Example, मैंने 2019-20 में ओल्ड टैक्स रिजीम से फाइल किया बिकॉज इस साल मेरे पास कोई ऑप्शन नहीं था. नेक्स्ट ईयर जब भी मेरे पास ऑप्शन आया, दैट इज फ्रॉम फाइनेंशियल ईयर 20 to 21, मैंने न्यू टैक्स रिजीम से फाइल किया. एंड अगर मुझे 20 फाइनेंशियल ईयर 21 to 22 में मेरे को वापस ओल्ड में जाना है, the option to switch from old new to old or old to new can this be exercised only once in my lifetime. So person having income from business and professions, please make your choices wisely. Questions on how to reduce more. As I said in my previous slide, I would explain you in my next slide how we can reduce your taxes more. First, I have an income below 5 lakh, which will be better. Any option, because as I said that rebate is applicable to both the regimes. If your income is up to 5 lakh, then you're not supposed to pay any tax in the both regime. But yes, if you have an income from business and profession, it is better to go for old regime. Because agar in future if your income is exceeds 5 lakh, then you can uh, use the deductions and exemption to reduce such income and come it under the 5 lakh. So it would be better कि आप जब भी अभी बिलो 5 लाख के अंदर हो तो भी आप ओल्ड रिजिम की सिलेक्शन करो. बिकॉज अगर आपकी इनकम 5 लाख से बड़ी भी, तभी भी आप थोड़े डिडक्शंस और एग्जेम्पशन क्लेम कर पाओ ताकि आपकी इनकम टैक्सेबल इनकम 5 लाख के अंदर आ जाए. सेकेंड, can you suggest more of the component for the salaried people? Any additional heads like other than HRA, educations, LTA, etc.? There are few points which you can restructure your salary part, but I'll be focusing only one part, which is ask your employer to contribute for the pension fund. This will give you the triple benefits. First, employer contribution is eligible to claim as a deduction in both the regime. Second, your own contribution is eligible in the old regime, and the you also get the additional benefits of rupees 50,000, which is over and above 1.5 lakhs. What are the best tax saving investments as per the income tax? I would just tell you what all things you need to know. First, life insurance. Your life should be insured with a term plan for at least 10 times of your income. Second, medical insurance. Uh, as we can say that health is only the wealth, so you and your family should be insured by the health cover as well. Exhaust your ATC limit. You can exhaust your ATC limit by investing in ELSS funds, but if you are risk averse, then you can invest in PPF, Sukanya Samriddhi, NSC, which gives you the guaranteed return. Fourth, national pension scheme. As in the previous question I discussed, you can restructure your salary part and ask your employer to contribute to the NPS. Coming up to the few questions on inform to employer or a business person. Can we change our selection from old to new or else new to old every year? Yes. You can choose from old to new or new to old every year. This option can be exercised every year, but provided you don't have the income from business and professions. It is confirmed that the salary person can change the choices while filing the income tax return and claim different. Yes, you can change your choices at the time of filing income tax return. But if you have chosen new tax regime for the TDS purpose, I'm sorry, then you will not be able to claim salary related deductions at the time of filing return, even though you're going for old tax regime. What is the exception for the person having income from business and professions? As we said that switching from old to new or new to old, this option can be exercised only once in their lifetime. So it would be better you make your choices properly and properly calculate what will be beneficial for you. Is presumptive income allowed in the new regime? Yes, there is no change in opting for the presumptive income, whether it for presumptive income for business or professions. Can I change the option while filing revised return? Actually, there is no such restrictions notified yet. So yes, you can change your options, choose in the original return while filing your revised return. Now let's discuss with the advantage and disadvantage of both the options. Advantages of new tax regime. First, by seeing this slab rates, you can understand that the rates have been reduced and also you are not supposed to maintain any documentation for all the proof. Second, it has also increased the liquidity in the hands of investors and he can invest in any other funds other than the tax saving options, which gives him the flexibility to invest too. Advantages of old tax regime. This actually inculcate the saving culture by regularly investing some part of your income in the tax saving options. Second, this would help you to claim your unavoidable expenditure and investments as we already saw in our examples. Now discuss with the disadvantage of new tax regime. This forgo the benefits of expenses, forgo the saving and resultant wealth creation or future security. Disadvantage of old tax regime, relatively less disposable cash, which means it reduces the liquidity in the hands of investors. Most of the tax saving options have longer lock-in period, that is from 5 years to 15 years approx, which does not give the investor flexibility to invest. Last time I got the request to show up to what CTC new tax regime is beneficial. Here it is the chart. From looking into the chart, we can summarize higher the income with the less deductions, new tax regime is beneficial. Lower the income with the higher deductions, old tax regime was beneficial. Now let's discuss this chart and few questions. Which regime is better? As per you, what are the best recommendation for the old tax regime and new tax regime? Actually, it would depend upon the income and deductions you have. It has been cases to cases. If you have more unavoidable expenditure and unstoppable investments and lower income, then old tax regime would be better. If you have higher income with the less deductions, new tax regime would be better. I do get the questions relating to dividend. As in the budget 2020, dividend is taxable in the hands of investors. Earlier, it was earlier company was supposed to pay the dividend distribution tax, due to which the dividend was exempt in the hands of investors up to rupees 10 lakhs. Beyond that, 10% was applicable. But after this budget 2020, dividend is taxable in the hands of investors. Therefore, from financial year 2020 to 2021, if dividend exceeds rupees 5,000, then TDS would be applicable. An entire dividend would be taxable in the hands of recipient on the slab rate. For example, I've fallen in the 30% slab rate. Then the difference between the 30% and 10%, which is 20%, I am supposed to pay as an advance tax. When is the liability? 15th of next month of respective quarter end in which the dividend received or accrued. Issue of refund amount which is less than 5 lakh due to COVID-19 situation. Exactly. Government has notified this that uh, whoever's refund amount has been still pending, whose amount is less than 5 lakh and which is not yet paid, then in have direct the income tax department to issue such refund amount as soon as possible, which will help the people in the pandemic situations. Due to this, you need to respond to some of the few questions which were been asked by the income tax department in your portal. If you are still unable to do so, you can contact us. We shall guide you for the same. And this is actually complimentary service which taxbuddy is providing. And we are not charging any fees for this service. And last time, I also got few of the specific information that I have income of rupees 18 lakh, I have income of rupees 10 lakh, I have paid this amount as in deductions, etc., etc., which was cases to cases. So if you still not clear, then you can use our hazel free tool, or else you can email us on the support at the taxbuddy.com, so that we can give you the customized tax planning report for the financial year 1920 and the financial year 2021. For the financial year 1920, because the last date to invest in the tax saving option have been extended to 30th June 2020. Coming up to the uh, our hazel free tool to decide between the old tax regime and new tax regime. You can use this link or can also download our app from the Play Store or the App Store. Now let's check out how this calculator exactly works. Here I'm considering the same example which I took previously of rupees 8 lakh. My age is below 60 years. I am salaried person. If I would have paying EMIs, then interest and principal amount. I am paying rent for my accommodations, then rent amount per annum. Are you receiving HRA? Yes, HRA per annum, basic salary per annum, and the city in which I reside. This will help me to calculate my HRA exemption amount. Deduction under ATC, which will be cumulative of PF, tuition fees, LIC, etc. Deduction under section 80D, which is 12,000 paid for my mediclaim, and any other which are not included above. Calculate. Result: your tax liability can be reduced by this if you choose for the old tax regime. How? All this computation, what all have been considered in the old tax regime and what is not considered, how this tax has been calculated based on the slab rates applicable in the old tax regime and the new tax regime. And the last one, we are also giving the TDS amount per month, which will be deducted from your salary. Now, our last session, question and answer. You can raise your hands or else type it in the Q&A tab so that I can answer over there. Can salary person switch multiple times? Yes. Every year you have an option to exercise every year. You can switch from old to new or new to old every year, but provided you don't have the income from business and professions. Why such move by the government? What is the logic by introducing new tax regime? Actually, this is basically for those people who don't actually wanted to invest all in the tax saving options, which gives the higher lock-in period and with the lower rate of return. Due to which, government has introduced the new tax regime so that their tax liability also get reduces without investing in any funds. Dividend received advance tax to pay when to please explain. Dividend received or accrued as and when it is received in the quarter in the next 15th of next month, you need to pay your advance tax. The difference amount of the TDS deducted 10% and the tax slab rate you fall in. You also do the tax return. Yes, sir. We are providing the services like GST filing, income tax filing, tax planning applications. We also have the notices manager. If you receive any notices, we shall guide you the same. Is deduction under section 80 CCD 1B available in the new tax regime? No, sir. Deduction under section 80 CCD 1B is also not available. Only one section is available, which is 80 CCD 2, where the employer contributes for the employee in the pension fund. Is the new tax regime is introduced to collect more taxes from the salaried people? No, sir. Actually, it depends upon the person. You can choose old tax regime too. Well, it depend upon you. Government has given you the selection. You can either go for the new one or the old one. According to you, which option would be better? As and when the cases to cases have arise. Example, the senior citizen, you should go for old regime. For the salaried people, at the time of declaration, you should go for old regime, because uh, once you go for the new regime, then you are not eligible to claim any salary related deductions. So it would be better you go for old only for a time in, and check out which option will be better, do the calculations and comparisons, and then after get into the final conclusion. How long old regime will be there? When old regime will be removed? There is no such notifications or any homers that old regime will be removed. This both regime will be there simultaneously. According to you, which is better if my salary income is 8 lakh 52? Sir, it depends how much you have the unstoppable investments and unavoidable tax saving expenditures. If you have higher and which is lower than the 10 lakh, then you can go for the old regime. If you don't have any options of matlab, you don't have the unstoppable investments or unavoidable tax saving expenditures, then you should go for the new regime. Or else you can also use a chart which were given that higher the income with the lower deduction, new regime is beneficial. Lower the income with the higher deductions, old regime is beneficial. Those who is paying EMI for home loan interest and have 7 lakh as a salary income. Sir, I think you should go for old regime, because in the old regime you can be able to claim your set off against your salary income if you are paying the EMIs and incurred losses against the house property income. TDS on dividend is payable even if your total income is 5 lakh. Yes, TDS would be applicable once your 5,000, if your dividend exceeds 5,000, then TDS would be applicable. Would I be forced to opt the new tax regime? No, sir. There won't be any compulsion from the government part that you need to follow new regime only, because government also losing their investments, which you guys are investing in PPF, NSC, etc. List of income tax allowances and deduction allowed to salaried individual in the brief. Sir, you can get the, because I have taken only the few and common ones which were not allowed in the new tax regime. You can get the exhaustive list from the from our website. Log in to www.taxbuddy.com. Over there you can get the exhaustive list, what is available and what is not available. So if I receive dividend, we have to pay advance tax on 15th July, 15th October, 15th Jan, 15th. Yes, sir. As in when your dividend accrued or received, you need to pay your advance taxes, because it is just like a interest income. If your interest income is greater than 10,000 or 40,000, which have been increased in the previous budget, 40 to 50, then bank needs to deduct TDS. Same wise, if you're falling in the slab rate of 30%, then you are supposed to pay the difference of same as an advance tax, but you fail to do so, so accordingly you are liable to pay the interest under section 234A B C. So it would be better that you pay your advance tax on time, as in when your dividend received and accrued. You can share your email ID here or FAQs. Can we get the FAQs? Sir, we have already prepared an FAQ PDF file. Uh, Below link, I shall give you the link. You just drop the email ID so that I can share the link. You just have to click that link. You will get the PDF of such. Is government taking any feedback on new regime? If people do not like it, government would be okay to remove new regime? No, sir. Actually, uh, it is just a budget 2020 which have been introduced the new regime. So I don't think so. Okay, they must be taking any feedback from the uh, assessee or a taxpayer for at least 1 or 2 years. For salaried person, do he need to pay advance tax? No, sir. For salaried, if you have income from salary only, then you're not supposed to pay any advance tax. Or your employer will deduct TDS accordingly. You just need to give your declarations now, how much you will invest in the entire year in any tax saving options, and at the end of the quarter, which may be December or in the Jan month, he shall be collecting all the proofs, and accordingly he will deduct in the end last quarter, which is Jan to March. That's it. I couldn't find any new such questions and relevant one. So I would end up this session. Thanks for participating this webinar.